Today, I'm going to talk about 5 qualities of a mentally healthy parent. I'm also still working on them, but there are 5 qualities that will make your parenting journey smooth and peaceful if you work on it. This story is about how Idli changed something inside me, and she started crying, full blown tantrum. I was very angry, but this is an incident that I keep narrating in many of my sessions whenever I talk about inner child. We don't want them to grow up and say, yes, sir, okay, sir, fine, sir, done, sir, sure, sir. I'm going to sit here with you. I'm going to be with you. I'm not going to abandon you. I'm not going to stonewall you. I'm not going to shout at you. There he says, our children are not coming from us, but through us. So we are the channels through which our children are here. So children have to grow up seeing imperfect parents. Again, it is not possible all the time. I'll give you one example from my life. I had a short crying episode and then I told myself to not feel guilty about it. It's okay. So that way we can create more secure attachments in the upcoming generation. Hello and welcome to Stories with Maya Zamma. Today I'm going to talk about 5 qualities of a mentally healthy parent. Now these are not 5 qualities that I have mastered or anything. I'm also still working on them, but there are 5 qualities that will make your parenting journey smooth and peaceful if you work on it. Now some of it you might already have, but listen to the whole thing and see what all you need to start working on maybe. Now, before I talk about those 5 qualities, I want to tell you a story from my parenting archives. This story is about how Idli changed something inside me, how it made me think of certain things that I need to work on in my parenting journey. Story goes back to, I think, 3 years back. Yeah, so now Maya is 10. This happened when she was 6.5. Yeah, 6.5 or 7. It was Idli one night for dinner. And I was solo parenting for, I think, 2-3 days. My husband was out of town. And I was really overwhelmed. Just creating context, okay? So, solo parenting. And one evening, school night. So, you know how it is. You need to put the child to bed as early as possible. And even then, sometimes it's not possible, how much ever you try. So anyway, those things were going on. And I told Maya, okay, let's have dinner and let's get to bed. And she said, okay. And then I said, fine, it's Idli, come, let's eat. And she was like, it's Idli? I don't want Idli. I don't like Idli. And that really did something inside me, okay. I mean, I was overwhelmed during the whole day, doing a lot of stuff, and in the evening, obviously, with the child, you know how it is, and it was night time, so my cup was really full. So I asked her, what do you mean? And she said, I don't want idli, not a great dinner option, I don't like. That really triggered me, okay. I was like, Maya, if you want to have, you have, otherwise don't have. There are bananas kept on the dining table. If you want, you eat a couple of bananas and you go to bed. And that triggered her, my tone and the way I presented the whole thing, which I'm not really happy about. Anyway, that triggered her and she said, no, Amma, I don't want idli, I don't want banana also, this, that. And she started off and I was like, you're really entitled. You have everything that you need. So I started becoming my mother a little bit, okay. Started making her feel guilty for rejecting my idli. And she started crying, full-blown tantrum. I was very angry. I said, I don't know what kind of a child this is. Why can't she just eat and just sleep off? I mean, weekly once it's idli, so what? It's not like every day it's idli. So, so all these things were happening. And then after some time I calmed down and my brain started working. I hadn't processed my anger really well. So I sat there, I took some deep breaths, and then I asked myself, why was it difficult to say sorry? And I got an answer from within me, which was, you never got a sorry. Who apologized to you when you had this kind of a tantrum or you had a meltdown? Nobody, right? So how can you say sorry when you haven't got it from anyone? That was what was preventing me from saying sorry. And then I gathered myself. Okay, baby, sorry. Big sorry. I shouldn't have spoken to you like that. Can you now come forward? Can you sit with me? Can we talk about it? And then she walked out of her room. And then she came in front of me. She didn't come to me. She sat next to me on the sofa. And I'm trying to settle down, okay? And then she goes, you have to hug me and say a sorry. Only then I'll accept. That sort of triggered it again, okay? But thankfully I didn't scream or yell because I had that awareness of where that trigger is coming from. And I just sat there again, composed myself, took a breath, and I told myself, it's okay, Swati. You didn't get a sorry. That doesn't mean you should do the same thing to your child. You just give it away. It's okay. Don't, hold on to that ego. Just keep it aside and tell that sorry. That's exactly what I did. I just composed myself and I told her, okay, sorry, come, let's hug. And we resolved it. But this is an incident that I keep narrating in many of my sessions whenever I talk about inner child. So we're going to talk about inner child also in this video. It's coming up. Now we'll start with what are the 5 qualities that a mentally healthy parent has to have or has to work on or can work on for a better parenting experience. Number 1 is control over your own emotions. Now, when a child is laughing and is all excited and everything, we don't get angry and we don't yell at them, right? But at the same time, when the child is crying or throwing a tantrum or is having a meltdown, that triggers us, that gets us all agitated and angry and, upset or even confused and overwhelmed at times. We need to separate the child from its emotions. That's what we need to do. So if we see the child separate as a separate person and emotion as a separate thing, we will realize that we are actually not okay with those emotions. Not with the child. Child is okay. Child is neutral here. We are not okay with certain emotions. So that will make us understand that those emotions are what is triggering us. Now then we can ask, is it because I am not able to handle that emotion? Or is it because I'm not in a mental state to handle it now? So 2 things can happen. 1, a lot of adults themselves, they don't know how to handle anger. Which means when they see anger in front of them, they'll not know how to handle it for somebody else. I mean, come on, I can't handle it myself. How will I handle it for another person? That can be 1. Second thing is, I can be in a state of mind, maybe very overwhelmed, maybe my cup is really full and saturated that I'm not able to hold space for another person. I'm not able to handle another person's emotions because I am really overwhelmed. So when we separate the child from the emotion and when we see the emotion separately, we'll be able to evaluate these 2 things. And then we can take a call, which means if we are in control of our emotions and if we are mindful enough to observe these things before reacting, we can do something called responding. And in most cases, it can be because we are not able to handle our anger, so we are not able to handle somebody else's anger, or our cup is really full. So we can take a moment to evaluate, is my cup empty, half full, full, or overflowing? Because how I handle somebody else's emotions can 90% depend on how my cup is at that point of time. Number 2, the ability to see your child as a separate individual. Yes, the child is yours, but still the child is a separate human being, autonomous human being, which means we needn't take it personally if the child is saying a no, or if the child is crying or expressing anger, throwing a tantrum, or is saying, I don't want to do my homework. Because that separate individual is also a growing, developing individual. And imagine the child to be an adult in a small body, which means they have to learn certain skills to become that adult, no? And those skills include skills like telling no, denying certain things, having their own boundaries, telling that they can't come somewhere at a certain point of time, I need some extra time. These are all things that are going to be part of that personality, right? I'm sure we all agree we don't want our children to simply grow up and obey authority, right? We don't want them to grow up and say, yes, sir, okay, sir, fine, sir, done, sir, sure, sir. We don't want them to do that all the time, no? We want them to say no. We want them to deny a request. We want them to stand up for themselves, etc., right? So, which means how will they develop those skills? They have to practice it at home. And if we don't give them that space to practice, their boundaries, then where else will they go and practice? Which means if we don't want them to grow up with a sheep mentality, and if we need them to develop these essential life skills, let them practice by saying no. Let them tell first what they really want in that situation, and then we can have a conversation. It is not okay to condemn right away when they say something or, when they do something. We can't always go on taking things as an insult to our ego and take it personally that, oh, what kind of a child have I raised? Why is this child telling no to me? We can't take it personally, every time like that. I personally know a lot of parents who have taken it as a big insult when their child says no or, goes against something. We don't really have to see it that way. It's a good thing if your child has that space at home to express themselves confidently without being afraid of you. Parallelly, what we need to do is we need to teach them how to establish boundaries. We need to teach them how to handle that anger. We can tell them, if you don't want to do your homework now, it's fine. Maybe take a 10-minute break and then we need to do our homework. It is, mandatory that you complete your homework. Maybe you finish your homework and we can, work on some extra screen time or something maybe. Do what is needed at that point of time. Come to a common ground, I would say. And tell them very firmly that this is how things are at home. At this time frame, you need to be doing this. Suddenly, if they throw a tantrum or if they tell they can't do, you sit with them. You tell them very confidently that, baby, it's okay that you're crying. It's okay that you're uncomfortable. It's okay that you don't want to do this. But you bring that sadness and that anger and whatever you have inside you, you bring it out. I'm going to sit here with you. I'm going to be with you. I'm not going to abandon you. I'm not going to stonewall you. I'm not going to shout at you. I'm just going to be here with you while you are done with your emotions, and then we can sit and do our homework again. That way, what will happen, they will grow up into emotionally stable individuals who feel secure with that care provider. They will feel very securely attached to that person because that person hasn't abandoned them. That person hasn't shamed them or hasn't screamed and yelled at them and made them feel like a bad person. So that way we can create more secure attachments in the upcoming generation. So holding space for them, allowing them to express their emotions, allowing them to say no at times, all that doesn't mean we are going to just let them do whatever they want to do. There are going to be firm boundaries and certain strict rules at home that they have to abide by, they have to follow. But there will be that feeling that I have my parent always there with me. They're going to stand with me and hold space for me and allow me to process these emotions, but they're going to be there. Only thing is I have to follow certain things as rules and regulations at home, but doesn't mean they are going to manipulate me or control me or harass me into getting things done. I will still do it because they are there loving me unconditionally And that way we can create that bridge and a beautiful communication channel wherein they feel free to tell us what they feel like telling, but we also have that space and freedom to tell them what we feel is right for them. And I'm sure all of you have heard of this beautiful poem. I think it's by Khalil Gibran, where he says, our children are not coming from us, but through us. So we are the channels through which our children are here. So that way we need to see our children as separate individuals. Number 3, be aware that you have an inner child in you. I'm talking about the parent, the adult. Example, Swati has a little Swati inside me. And that little child might be the one that is getting triggered with all these big, overwhelming emotions. So, with the story that I told you, can you connect it? Since the little Swati didn't get apology, she was getting triggered when she was demanded an apology. And there was a demand for an apology. So, like that, every single time when something triggers you, if you can question yourself for a second, who's actually getting triggered here? Child is getting triggered. So that will make you, look at yourself as 2 people, as that hurt or unfulfilled or agitated child that is inside you, and also the adult that you have become. When you get that moment of reflection, then you can take a choice, who should react in the situation, who should respond in the situation. Should I allow that little child to deal with my child, or should I keep that child away and aside for some time, and should I just allow the parent, the adult me, to take a decision at this point of time? So when you ask that child inside you, you will know maybe you were not allowed to cry, maybe you didn't get a sorry, maybe your anger was not considered as a valid emotion itself. Maybe that's what is triggering you. So that will give you a beautiful reflection of what exactly is going on in your parenting journey. And then when you're aware of that, after all the tantrum is done, after you have handled the situation, that you need to go and nurture that inner child in you. Because that little child also has unmet emotional needs. Maybe that child is craving for validation, for appreciation, for kindness, for safety. There can be so many things that little child in you is craving for. So parallelly, we have to reparent ourselves also, so that little child doesn't bother us when it comes to our parenting journey. Just to clarify, that little inner child in us is not always bad and is not always a botheration, okay? It can become a good thing, especially when you're trying to be playful with your child, when you're trying to bring out that fun side of yours, when you're happy and giggly and excited. During the time when that inner child only comes out. So it's not that inner child is a bad little kutti devil sitting inside you. It's a sweet child which is asking for good times, happy times also. There's a detailed video coming up on inner child and inner child healing and how to nurture your inner child and all that. So stay tuned for that, okay? So the third point was, be aware of that inner child in you. It will help you parent in a better way. Number 4, we have to be aware that we are imperfect parents. What I mean by that is, see, there can be a whole big pile of laundry to do. And while you're just starting to do that, only maybe your child is starting off with a tantrum or a meltdown. And you might get into that, mommy mode. What is this? Always tantrums. I can't get to do my work in peace. Oof, my life is miserable after this child has come. I'm not able to do anything. We might become our parents during these moments, right? We need to understand that no matter how much work we do, how much perfection we are aiming for, what all we accomplish outside the home or inside the home, no matter what happens, we will never, ever be perfect. So if your child was, let's say, bullied at school and they want to come and share about it, and on that specific day you have your laundry or some some work that you need to do, we can keep it aside. We don't have to be that, you know, proper, perfect person during that time. We can just be that parent. The problem is we want to satisfy all the roles at the same time, which might not be possible. So during those kind of situations, it's okay to allow the child to skip tuition on that evening, or it's okay to let the child eat just one idli if they are not too hungry and they really want to share about this thing with you. Then keep everything aside and just be with the child. I know it's easy to say because we have all seen our parents be this perfect, or at least aiming for perfection. We also subconsciously tend to do that. So my point is, don't do that. Let's stay imperfect, because that 1 hour that we spend with that child that evening, that will go a long way. You know, even if we don't do laundry for the next 3 days, or we don't entertain guests that particular evening, or whatever we are trying to keep aside, those moments of the child will be much more impactful in the long run. So children have to grow up seeing imperfect parents. Again, it is not possible all the time. I'll give you one example from my life. Once I had a class at 8 o'clock, and Maya decides to talk about something that happened at school and cry at 7:45. Now I have to start the meeting in few minutes. So I sit with her for like 5-10 minutes. I somehow managed. But then I started getting panicky about starting the meeting. Thankfully, Maya's dad was available during that time, and I sort of handed over her to him last moment. He's not too great at handling these big emotions. You know, I do a much better job at that. But still, you know, I had to let her go. I had to choose. I had to prioritize during that time. And I remember on that evening, I kept the camera off for the first 7 minutes. Usually I start the meeting in 2-3 minutes, but I kept it off for like 7-8 minutes. I cried. I had a short crying episode. And then I told myself to not feel guilty about it. It's okay. Let them do whatever they want to do. Let them figure it out. It's okay if he can't do a great job handling her emotions like me. It is fine. And then I had to compose myself and then start my meeting. So those kind of days also happen. It's okay. It's not possible every single time, but let it be in the back of your head, you know. Let me not be a perfect parent. That will take away a lot of pressure and stress. Which brings me to my 5th point, which is be kind to yourself always. We are all a work in progress. Like I told you, these 5 points also, I'm not a master on all these things. I just know these things, I'm aware of these things, I'm mindful about these things, and most times I apply it. That's all. Not all the time. There are times when I shout and yell and scream and sometimes become my own mom. I haven't hit my child. Thankfully, again, because of parenting books that I read when Maya was very little, because of gentle parenting workshops that I've attended at the right time. Otherwise, I would have started hitting her. I'm sure about it. My request is also to parents that would have hit their children or are hitting their children, be kind to yourself, okay? I know under what circumstances these things happen, and it's not like it's okay. I would never say hitting is okay, but I would still empathize with you because we are not trained how to handle these kind of situations. We need to train ourselves. There's no other go. So just take that effort and learn and unlearn all these things, and make sure that we do something so that we don't repeat these behaviors again and again, because children will forgive. They are so large-hearted that they forgive so easily. I do something horrible and then I go to my child and I'm like, Mayu, please forgive Amma. No, I was in a very bad state of mind. I was very overwhelmed. I didn't finish my work, and that time only baby threw a tantrum and I didn't know what to do. That's why Amma screamed, and she's like, it's okay, Amma. I forgave you long back. Children they are something else only. They are here to actually parent us, I would say. It's not that we are parenting them. We are getting a lot of lessons from them. I'm sure all parents agree with this. Yes, so these are my 5 points for being a mentally healthy parent. I'm sure these 5 qualities are difficult to achieve on a day to day basis, but whenever you remember, whenever you are mindful about it, um, whenever you are conscious about it, if you apply it, I'm sure we can all do a better job at parenting. I'm also learning. I promise you, I'm not perfect. No one is. I'm also learning. I'm also unlearning. I'm also work in progress. I'm sending you all a lot of virtual hugs and healing to your inner child also. I'll see you all in the next episode. Bye.